Ladies and gentlemen, who the fuck are we again?
Some two guy. What?
Dudes. Two dudes.
I'm pretty sure two. I remember two. It's two something.
No, you're forgetting Conroy. There's a third.
Course.
God, that's an old joke. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Schmoes Show. I'm your host, Steve Ryan, and I'm a Schmo.
And I'm Cairo, and I'm also a Schmo. I love the idea that these are all like second channel episodes because we haven't had Conroy on. Like, what, 8 years of everything going to the backup.
Did we ever? I think we recorded like one thing with Conroy once.
We did exactly one.
That might be the greatest joke in the history of this whole show.
I don't remember exactly what happened because I don't think it was at the actual studio. I think it was one of the ones that we did in the student housing.
Yeah, it was back.
He just happened to be there.
It was Gillette. It was back when we were in the corner of Gillette. Fuck, because like Conroy came over after a shift of work, I belive.
That sounds right.
Yeah, he brought like pizza, and I think we were were we reviewing a movie?
Probably. Something like that.
Sounds like us. Yeah, sounds like us.
Yeah.
Or a video game. It was either that. I just remember, you two had the couch. I had our little side chair. And the whole time, like, I had to lean over all the microphone equipment to get the fucking pizza.
Yeah.
So I was like trying not to like biff it the whole time. And meanwhile, Conroy's on the couch doing his Conroy thing where he's like squirming his whole body around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Conroy, come on, man. This is a recorded audio. You don't need to do as much physical comedy. You're gonna bump something. You're scaring me. I miss him. He was a cool dude.
Yeah. Hope he's doing well.
Yeah, Conroy, if you're out there, we miss you.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, it's been. I was trying to think back. Has it been?
I think it's been about 5 weeks.
5 weeks, yeah. It's been a really long haircut.
A really long haircut. That's good. What the fuck have we been up to then?
It's been a lot of little things, honestly. That's the funny part of it, is that there's like the big part of it, I guess, that deserves to be mentioned because it's been on and off for like the last 2 months now. I have moved. I am no longer in an apartment. I am part of the bourgeoisie, and I have bought a house. I've gotten a mortgage on a house. So,
Kyle's a class trader. Woo!
Absolutely, you know it. But yeah, that's taken up a shitload of time because I don't know. Maybe I feel like this is not just my family thing. This is more of like a Midwest thing in general, where it's just like, yeah, spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a mortgage and tens of thousands of dollars on buying furniture and stuff, but I can't pay for movers. We have a trailer. What are you talking about? We'll do it ourselves, of course. And it's, would have been so much easier to just pay somebody a few $100 to move all this shit for us. But we didn't. So here we are.
Get fucked, Cairo. Class trader. You don't get the workers. Go move into your affordable housing all by yourself.
Thankfully, because my child is a cat, she doesn't cost that much.
Damn it. I mean, I can't really complain. I have a cat child as well.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been good. I'm in a see out the window and look at things. It's been really fun because Portage is very wet over here. Lots of little ponds and swamps and crap. And it is goose season, of course. So it's been very fun, and Rin has enjoyed it a lot. While the geese family do their, rotations around the town with their little goslings in tow.
Ooh, we have that same thing with our apartment. I don't know if you remember that, but Houdini absolutely adores hunting like the goslings out the window.
Oh yeah.
I honestly wonder how fast he would fuck one of those up.
Oh, I guarantee it. Houdini especially. I don't think Ren would, just 'cause she just doesn't know what she would do. Houdini strikes me as the kind of cat that would, like, when they find a pest, they would kill it and then bring it to you as a trophy and be like, look what I did, Dad. Are you proud of me? And then you would be proud of them. And then they would eat it and make a huge mess.
After the window incident, I'm secretly a little bit afraid of my goddamn cat. So, for me, I am officially a race running runner.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I did the Amway Riverbank run in Grand Rapids. That was, it was tedious. You know what I've discovered? I should have known this beforehand, and it really goes to show how much of a fucking freak I am. Did you know it's a bad idea to eat protein before a heavy activity like running?
I didn't, actually. That's interesting. I could see that. That's one of those things that I'm always never sure about, is like, I guess if you're going to do heavy exercise, the right answer to what should you eat beforehand is like nothing or water.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of surprised that protein would be not good.
So it's because it takes forever to digest, right?
Okay.
So guess what your dumbass boy decided to do before this run for breakfast?
For breakfast, was it like something leftovers, or did you make something?
So I went into this run, this big race, thinking I want to make sure I don't get a stomach ache. I don't want to get stomach cramps on my fucking big ass run with like thousands of people.
Yeah, of course.
So I decide I'm going to just have a liquid breakfast. And by that, I mean a highly processed protein shake.
Yeah.
I almost threw up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's liquid, I believe that a lot.
Yeah, it was the dumbest thing in retrospect.
I imagine that didn't help. Versus just like having a bunch of sausage or something.
Yeah, like honestly, I wish I would have done something more physical, because like this is going to be a little gross, so I apologize to the audience. I could feel stomach bile in my saliva.
Yeah,
like that really acidy taste. That was disgusting. I had to stop at a porta potty and like spit out of like all of my juices.
Oh, that is accurate, but gross way of describing it.
No, there's a worse way to describe it.
True.
You ever played the game Mario Sunshine?
Briefly, but yes.
Yeah, do you remember the Yoshis in that game?
No.
And how they would spit
out...
yes,
no, I do, yes.
Spit out juice?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I did a second race after that immediately.
Oh, yeah?
The Insamus Sam decided that we need to... she wants to do more of those like 5Ks and runs. She's doing like the walking divisions, but I decided I'm going to do the running divisions. On a whim, I decided to do this other one in Caledonia with her. Anyway, I learned my lesson from the protein shake, right? So this time I decide I'm going with light and solid. So I do rice. It's a 40-degree day as we do this run. And I am just running on this nice, simple carb, super easy to digest. But I decide I'm going to wear my really tight runner sweater. I showed you a couple pictures of that before the show. So I'm wearing my runner sweater to keep me warm out there. It's really tight. It's like to get the whole body, locking all your heat so you can run properly. You know what I didn't realize, though? I should have gave myself more time to digest, Because when you run a little bit, I find I bloat very slightly.
Ah.
So I'm running, and as I'm running, my super comfortable like running outfit just starts to feel more bloated and bloated as I run, to the point where I felt like I was popping out of my clothes at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most uncomfortable shit. But I finished first in my division in that race, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then
Works.
they didn't tell me I won first in my division until after the race
Mm.
through a fucking email. So I didn't get to claim my prize.
That sucks.
So I begged them via email, hey, can I just have this? I want this for my display at home or whatever I'm going to do with these fucking finisher medals they give us and my bibs. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, just pay for the shipping and we'll ship it out to you. $7 shipping for this, whatever it is. I don't even know what it is.
Mm.
That's unpleasant.
Yeah.
But oh well. It's kind of my fault.
Oh. 50-50, let's call it.
50-50, okay.
It seems like the kind of thing where they could, like, if they're not going to do a big, like, you should be able to pretty quickly just be like, okay, does this person who finished first need to be disqualified? No? Here you go.
Oh well.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. So, we missed a lot, didn't we?
We did. Pope dead.
Pope dead?
Pope dead.
I believe we did cover that last time.
Did we? Did we catch that? Pope.
Yeah, because I did the thumbnail of Francis in heaven.
That is true. Okay, yeah, we did. So, new pope.
The pope regenerated.
That is exactly how that works.
Yeah, it's.
Where do you think the BBC got the idea?
Exactly. The British Broadcasting Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the British, famously very favorable to the Catholic Church.
Exactly. That's why they made Doctor Who as heresy. So who's the new pope?
Robert Francis Prevost, known now as Pope Leo XIV. Notable for many things, but most relevant to us, born in fucking Chicago.
Hell yeah! We got a Midwest Pope.
We got a Midwest Pope, and not just a Midwest Pope. Midwest Pope from a major city, which comes with all sorts. Like, we have a Pope that we know has had Malort and deep dish. That's huge. That's culture.
The Pope. Because of who the Pope is, we could actually see a deep dish restaurant in the fucking Vatican.
God, can you imagine how wild and funny it would be if some deep dish place started making deep dish with his face on it?
Yo, That'd be sick. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so interesting guy. It's such a shame that everything happened timing wise of this, because I would have loved to have talked about him more, because it has been quite fascinating to read up about like who he is, what's his life, where's he stand on shit, and the Pope stuff in general. Like we were talking about this like with the U.S. government, how there's like fascinations with seeing how basically the Catholic government works is also pretty fascinating at times when they're not, like enabling pedophiles, right?
Yeah.
In this case, Pope Leo was born in Chicago and did much of his priestly beginnings in the Midwest. After that, notably, was positioned as a cardinal, or sorry, where did it go? He was in Peru. Where did that end up going? I thought I just had it. There we go. Missionary work in Peru. He did a bunch of stuff in Peru and eventually was, as part of his being, a cardinal. where is this? Assigned the deacony of Santa Monica degli Agostiniani.
That sounds fucking Italian as shit.
Yeah, who would have guessed? Regardless, though, main thing that I thought was really fascinating was because popes choose their names, they usually carry significance in them when it's something like this, where it's like obviously name Leo the 14th. And if you look back at what other popes chose the title of Leo, there's a pretty interesting trend and history in them doing so as a statement of the strength of the Catholic Church as an institution, and one that is itself. People who the popes that have chosen Leo are generally popes doing so in times that are not easy and uncertainty in the world. Yeah. Very deliberate, so it would seem. I also thought it was quite amusing, just the way that the internet works and how quickly it does. Because the Pope is from Chicago, I believe he's a Sox fan, not a Cubs fan, and somebody managed to find a broadcast clip from like 15 years ago or something that the camera just happened to in the stadium at the game with his collar on when he was just a regular priest, and somehow someone was able to pull that up within like a day of his inauguration.
Someone was skeptical. Someone had a feeling.
In the time since, we have actually gotten some popal duties that have been happening that has been kind of interesting. Notably, we have had a continuation of the late Pope Francis's legacy as it comes to the perspective on the situation in Gaza. Very pointedly continuing for the call of peace in Gaza and a ceasefire from both sides, and Leo's maintaining of the to the Catholic churches that are in that region.
I see.
Beyond that, there's a lot that we can go into. But I think we'll probably hold off on that because I expect we will be talking about this Pope more as time goes on.
Leo is very interesting to me, not just as like an American, because quite frankly, I will admit it's kind of cool seeing like the Pope shit come in and like Americans rejoicing in it. It is one of those things where I feel like American culture has not had anything to really root for as a collective in a long time. So, despite everything I may feel about Leo, I do have to appreciate him for that.
It is nice to see an American on the world stage that is occupying a position that is pretty universally understood good. And it's kind of bleak to have to say that. But yeah, then that goes into, like the same way his choosing the title of Leo was a message from the Catholic Church. The fact that they elected an American, the first American Pope, is, in this moment, fairly substantial. Yeah. And not a coincidence.
I like to say, I made a joke that they were just going to get Biden as the Pope. And considering how fucking moderate Leo is, it is kind of like just getting Biden as the Pope.
It kind of is.
I'm the Pope now, Jack.
On on the point of Biden, I guess that's as good of a transition as I could hope for.
Are we going to talk about
Unfortunately,
the ass cancer? Yeah.
Biden has been announced that he has cancer, and fairly aggressive cancer at that.
Prostate cancer, if I got that right, correct?
Yeah. Well, specifically prostate cancer that has metastasized to the bone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where the real problem of it is, and their announcements have all been that this is something that they expect to be able to treat, which is good. But yeah, any bone cancer is really bad to hear in general.
Damn. That man, like, say what you will about Biden, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think like we'll definitely have a better view of him in like 5 years or so. I don't give a shit about the cultural stuff. Biden's fucking life story is just sad as hell.
Yeah.
Like, that man can't catch a fucking break, and here he is again with cancer after, stepping down as president. That man is hated by someone. I don't know who, but
Yeah, I imagine a lot of that comes with the territory, right, of putting yourself as a leading figure of the party. But yeah, it's definitely still sucks for them.
Yeah. What else do we have in news?
So that is a good point. While we're talking about Democrats with cancer, it is worth noting that now former Representative Jerry Connolly, who was diagnosed with cancer last year, who had his diagnoses well known at the time, and who just earlier this year was elected to lead the House Oversight Committee instead of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has died from his cancer on May 21st, 2025. And while that is indisputably tragic, I do feel like between Connolly and Biden's diagnoses, along with the fact that there have been two other Democrats who have died after the November election because they either were... I think this is going to be the big problem that the Democratic Party has to reckon with, is that it is one factor to have the party be old and from that out of touch. But the other very real side of that is that old people get ill.
Yeah.
And they have this very clear pattern, and it's not exclusive to them, to be clear. The Republican Party is nearly as bad at it. But if you are not the incumbents and people are unhappy with what you have been doing and trying to win favor back, keeping the same old people that are literally dying in pretty unprecedented numbers for the times that we live in, right? The statistic that I was seeing was that since 2020, 14 sitting lawmakers have died. The last 8 members of Congress to die while in office have all been Democrats. In the last 11 months, 5 House Democrats have died in office. These are not coincidences. They're not conspiracies. These are people who are just too fucking old. These people need to retire and do so at a time when they can be active in other people's campaigns, such that the bullshit argument of, well, we don't want to lose the seat to a Republican doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on this. I don't understand what the stubbornness is all about at this point.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is.
the hubris of it is infuriating.
I mean, like, I get it now that I think about it, like a little harder. Because, like, what do they have to lose? They don't really have anything to lose. It's just punishing young
Well,
people.
no, I see. That's the thing. I disagree.
Yeah. Okay.
These people are in their 70s and 80s, right? Retire.
Okay. Yeah.
Spend time with your fucking family. That's what I don't get. And that's what these people, either they are foregoing time that they should have deserved to have with their loved ones when they get to the end of their life, not working to death, or they're abdicating their duties as doing that anyway.
Nah, dude. I get what you're saying, and I agree with it. But they're politicians. They don't love anyone.
Yeah.
Only
Only their donors.
Donors need to start like buckling the fuck down and be more picky about who they donate to.
Mm-hmm. That is another area that's been kind of fascinating to watch. Obviously, in this last week in particular, as we get into some like recent news, Elon Musk is no longer doging it up, I guess. I'll be honest, I haven't looked up the exact details of this to understand exactly what is the status of things. My understanding Doge as a collaborative organization with the government is going to continue to do that, particularly because Elon hasn't been like the head of Doge for a while. There's another person that's assigned to that role that's like an actual government employee, I thought, at least.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was. There was a government employee overseeing Doge as a contractor, right?
Amy Gleason is currently the assigned head, the acting administrator of the United States Department of Government Efficiency. Never mind that whenever you ask Trump, he says that Musk is the head of Doge. Yeah.
She honestly comes off to me. I'm looking at her photo right now. She pronounced it doggy.
Doggy. Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah.
It is worth noting that a substantial reason for Musk standing down right now, while there is other factors at play for why it's happening in this exact moment, and there is talk about, you know, why is Musk leaving? Is the Trump administration unhappy? Et cetera, et cetera. The reality of it is that because Elon is a government contractor and not a government employee, if he continues to work at Doge, his emails in particular become technically capable of having Freedom of Information Act requests submitted for them, and they don't want that. So at this point, he was always going to have to leave Doge. They were going to have to try and do some sort of bullshit to break that, you know, very well-established legal precedent. That being said, the falling out of this has been very funny. It does seem like with Musk vacating parts of the Trump cabinet inner circle, room has crept in for the other members of that cabinet to, you know, in a very self-serving way, kind of be like, hey, you know, this guy's full of shit, right? He hasn't done anything. And obviously this is all rumors, not stated publicly, people speaking anonymously to a news organization. The rumor mill is that Trump is quite frustrated that Doge like hasn't worked, that they have so badly missed their targets, and that by all, you know, smart people accounting for what Doge has done, they're very likely going to government more money, even aside from like trying to like restart the programs that they've gutted. Just like as things are, if they stay as they are, the government's going to spend even more money than they were before because of how poorly everything was done. Add on to that, we have had Musk saying very publicly how disappointed he is on the budget bill that's currently going through Congress at the moment. Notably,
Bitch, me too. You ain't special.
Yeah. Notably because it adds something like to the U.S. debt over the next the next 10 years, which is allegedly the thing that Elon was. And it's, it's not surprising, right? We all knew from the word go that because this is a Republican government, they weren't going to cut taxes for people making less than seven figures, not in a way that actually, and they sure as hell weren't going to raise the debt because they don't care about that. I figure if we have a chance soon, it'll be worth going into the big, beautiful bill, the budget bill that has currently passed the House and has made its way over to the Senate to be debated and voted. Because it's pretty messed up, and worth talking about, but longer conversation, and we have quite a bit to get through still.
Yeah. How's it feel being in the end of Doge?
Well, so that's the thing. Yeah. I don't think we are, and I think that's kind of the scary part about this, in a way, is that the Doge as a government department still exists and still has people working there. And while Elon's tenure has been extremely destructive and stupid and easy to point and laugh at because of how dumb and destructive it is, his vacancy, in the same way that we're seeing the change from Trump's first administration, opens the door for somebody much more malicious to come in his stead and start ruining things even worse.
You know what?
That's my concern.
That's fair. That's what I feel has been a running theme of this second Trump term. Like, I don't think it's the worst thing for us currently, but I'm not saying it's not going to bite us in the ass later on in our history.
Yeah, they've definitely traded out the what was the guy's name? The Secretary of Defense, Bolton. John Bolton. They've traded out the neocon, borderline far-right John and replaced them with true believers, like people like Stephen Miller, who we'll talk about in a bit, who was present in the first administration, but not in such an elevated role. And the people who are coming in are just as bad at doing the things that they want to do, but the things that they want to do aren't the usual Republican things, like cut taxes for the rich to benefit their donors and roll back, rights like Roe v. Wade and set up that kind of things. People like Miller are very much more unequivocally evil in a really basic way. There was a good opinion piece I saw from I don't remember exactly, some like New York Times contributor type, who was talking about how the way that he has found most effectively to talk about the current administration and their goals is by describing them as wicked, in like a very biblical sense almost. Right? These aren't people who you can sit down and have a discussion with, want everybody to be able to, every American to be able to live their best life the best as possible, and you disagree on the way, like we would have historically seen. These are people who fundamentally want to eradicate classes of people or people from entire nationalities because they don't like them for whichever reason, usually racism / bigotry. And you can't debate that. It is, people asking you to compromise on something that should not be compromised. Yeah. And to that point, we have thankfully started to our courts do something. There is the open constitutional crisis part of looming over everything. When does Trump blatantly ignore a Supreme Court order that hasn't technically happened yet, but kind of feels like it did already happen, that everybody's kind of just waiting for to see, the constitutional, because the looming threat of a constitution been dealt with, and I personally think that the constitutional crisis has already happened. We just haven't seen the consequence of it yet. If that makes sense.
No, I agree with you, though, about that being a constitutional crisis. What I think is fascinating about this moment, right? This is kind of silly, but it is kind of played very low-key as a constitutional crisis. Mm-hmm. I feel like there should not be this much of a... What's the word I'm looking for? A doldrum about it. I feel like there's this very... it's a lot quieter than I ever expected it to be. Because it kind of feels like it's just tangled in bureaucracy, and they're kind of playing it off like that when it shouldn't.
Definitely.
Be. Yeah. But here we are.
Yeah. I don't know if it came through when I was breaking up there, but I did find it... it has been interesting to see the court's response, because they haven't been completely quiet on it. And we have seen responses even from the Supreme Court on cases that I think during Biden's tenure would have been, the slam dunk kind of like 6-3-5-4 that we've come to expect from this Supreme Court. In particular, I wanted to highlight the 7-2 ruling in regard to the Alien Enemies Act, where the Supreme Court ruled that the administration was not giving people the due process that they are required to have, and gave guidelines for what needs to happen going forward. And there's obviously been more garbage coming out of the government as they try to skirt around that, but it was a pretty, it was 7-2. You can guess who the two dissenting justices were, but aside from that, it was a very clear, statement coming from the Supreme Court as to their not being satisfied with what the government is trying to do here. Likewise, there is a case that is currently still working its way through the Supreme Court that had oral arguments last week that I was kind of keeping an eye on the headlines as they were coming in, as those arguments were happening, that is getting less attention, but is full of arguments that are as equally insane as the Alien Enemies Act, where which in that case the government was trying to claim that basically non-citizens aren't do the rights that the Constitution says that they are, which is something that has been litigated for literally hundreds of years and very consistently been ruled that yes, if you are in the United States, regardless of your citizenship status, you are due process. In this one, the government is arguing the position that circuit courts should not be allowed to make national injunctions.
So they're not allowed to do their job.
Well, so their argument, which is absolutely insane, and it was reassuring hearing even some of the conservative justices, particularly Barrett, be very incredulous and just try to like actually talk them through how insane their suggestion is. Where, say, you have a case like what the ICE is doing right now, right? Yeah. Where they are arresting tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people and trying to deport them illegally back to random, it seems at times, countries, not their countries of origin, not giving them due process, not having them have a day in court, just rounding them up, shoving them on a plane, getting them out of the country. Their argument is that every individual arrested and deported by ICE would have to have a separate court case to decide whether those actions of the government are illegal, and that those justices couldn't say the government is doing illegal stuff and all of these don't do that. Even to the extent, of arguing that if, in theory, such a case was to happen, the people could just start a class action case. And that would be the better way to go ahead.
I have so many problems with that argument.
Yeah, it's batshit. Genuinely psychotic, and thankfully they were extremely skeptical over the arguments being presented. But obviously, there's 2, sometimes 3 justices on the court, those being Alito, Thomas, and, depending on the day of the week, Kavanaugh, who would very happily rubber stamp everything put before them. And to that point, we actually had a really good dissent from Kagan this week, who, I don't know, maybe coined the term, but I quite enjoy this a lot. Gave the comment that the court has been ruling for precedent over our precedent. Where they are ruling for whatever the whim of the government wants rather than the actual law that these same people sitting on the fucking Supreme Court clarified, 10, 15 years ago.
Damn. Yeah. Call them out.
Mm-hmm. To that end, we had a really interesting case just this last week and a half ago, where the Supreme Court had a 4-4 decision that ended up having a lower court's ruling stand, where an online religious charter school was trying to get full state funding for its operations. And because of the 4-4 decision, that will not be allowed. The reason this is a 4-4 not a 5-4 case is because Barrett actually recused herself on it. I fully expect that they're going to try this again with a different case, but seeing conservative justice do the thing that they're supposed to do is kind of wild.
Don't get used to it. You got lucky.
No, absolutely. They will absolutely find a case that they can put before her and give her, reasonable doubt to not recuse herself on it. Last piece of courts news that I wanted to briefly talk about was that we had a ruling this week from the Court of International Trade.
Bum, bum, bum.
So, let me look this up real quick, because do you know what the Court of International Trade is? Because I don't.
I sure don't. It's not like we talked about this before the show and you taught me, but...
Yeah, but genuinely, though, this was a court that I had not heard of prior to this happening. So
we're in the deep cut American politics now.
Yeah. This is I'm just reading this off Wikipedia here real quick. Originated with the Customs Administrative Act of 1890 that established the Board of General Appraisers as a quasi-judicial entity of the U.S. Treasury Department to hear disputes primarily concerning tariffs and import duties. In 1926, Congress replaced the board with the United States Customs Court, an administrative tribunal with greater judicial functions, which in 1930 was made independent of the Treasury Department. In 1956, the U.S. Customs Court was reconstituted by Congress as an Article III tribunal, giving it the status and privileges of a federal court. The Customs Court Act of 1980 established the U.S. Court of International Trade in its current form, granting it jurisdiction over all trade matters and conferring its judges with life tenure.
That's a powerful court.
It is absolutely a powerful but narrow court.
Yeah.
Notably, in this case, the Court of International Trade has issued a ruling basically saying that the current administration does not have the authority to set tariffs, particularly highlighting the fact that they are trying to do so through emergency powers of an emergency of their own making, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very solid legal ground.
Mm-hmm. The fascinating part of this, though, is that not the exact same case, but one being argued over the same fundamental problem was also moving its way through the typical federal courts chain and was at a federal district court where it was ruled similarly that Trump does not have the authority to set tariffs because the emergency powers that he is claiming are not valid, more or less. That ruling was appealed to a federal appeals court where the decision as to the pause of the tariffs that came about from that ruling was put as a stay. And the fascinating part about this is that you kind of have like a horse race now as to who can get their case through the chains faster. Is it going to go through the Court of International Trade, or is the government going to be able to manage to have it go through this appeals court and get up to the Supreme Court in time for the Supreme Court, which is the other, top level Article III court here, to give their ruling? Which one makes its way through there first?
Well, if one were to give a ruling, would the other be able to appeal it?
I don't know.
I generally don't know either, because these are two very powerful courts who are who have jurisdiction over essentially the same thing. It's just two different applications of the law.
Let's see if I can find something quickly here to clarify that, because it's a court that very obviously falls outside of the usual structure of the federal courts that we understand it, that are district courts with appeals courts above them, and then the Supreme Court above them. So maybe this will help. What is an Article III court? Article III courts are the U.S. Supreme Court and the inferior courts of the United States established by Congress, which currently are the 13 United States Courts of Appeals, the district courts, and the U.S. Court of International Trade. That's funny. All of the Wikipedia articles have very clearly been relatively recently updated to include this, because it has the U.S. Court of International Trade and several other tribunals.
Oh, fun.
I think one could argue, and presumably one would, that because the Court of International Trade is vested with very particular and narrow jurisdiction, that they would be kind of the end of the line. But I don't know. And I'm not easily finding a quick answer here. Maybe this will help. Can the Court of International Trade be appealed to the Supreme Court? Because I can see arguments in either ways.
You're about to get one of those awards for being the first person to Google something.
Yeah. Interesting. So it seems that it can be appealed through, what do they say? It can be appealed to the United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, which I didn't know was a thing either, but I guess kind of makes sense. It must be like an appeals court for these national jurisdiction courts, not the district courts, and ultimately to the Supreme Court of the United States. But the Court of International Trade has its own rules, practices, and procedures that differ from usual court practices in some cases. So potentially it could be appealed to the Supreme Court. And I guess that's where the race comes in, is like, which does it go through the jurisdictions of the district courts and the appeals courts, or does it go through the International Trade Court and the Federal Appeals Circuit?
That's one of life's great mysteries now, isn't it?
Sure seems like it. Last piece of news that I have before we get into some of the movie stuff that's been happening, because there's been quite a lot of movie stuff. I do think it is prudent for us to mention the situation that happened in Newark, where members of Congress, as well as the mayor of Newark, with the proper authority that they have, were giving an impromptu visit to an ICE detention center in Newark. While they were there, ICE claims that they assaulted ICE agents, and as a result, they had to be arrested and detained because of that. Obviously, they claim differently, but this is a very specific example of the way that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency has been operating well outside of the norms of what a government agency should be doing. Where
that's really fucking scary.
It's bad. It's just really bad. This is like an explicit checks and balance where Congress has the right to know what the executive is doing, even if they can't change what the executive is doing. And in this case, the executive fabricated a reason to have them not just removed from what they were doing, but also arrested to, very clearly threaten further consequences if they were to try again.
Jesus.
Yeah. Not good.
So you said
Let's
we have
talk
movie
movies.
stuff.
We have movies. I have there's actually quite a few major movies. A couple of quick ones I want to rattle off first, though, that I thought were interesting. The Until Dawn movie actually released.
Wasn't that bad?
It seemed kind of mediocre. 52% from critics, 68% from audiences. It is no Minecraft movie, put it that way.
Okay.
It's gonna be a fascinating couple of years. I don't know if you've heard the glut of video game movies that have been given the green light in the wake of the Mario movie and now the Minecraft movie, but we are gonna get some absolute slop very quickly down the pipe.
I called it. I called it back when Sonic the Hedgehog did well.
Yeah.
I said we were going to see a lot of video game adaptations in our near future.
Very notably, there are already movie adaptations of video games for video games that haven't released yet.
No, this is Hollywood. This is the Hollywood I know and love.
I had an example of a comparison, but I've lost it now. But it's like people who are pitching their games with that being the point, right? It's like, hey, you know the Minecraft movie? It made $1 billion. I'm making a video game with a movie too. Give me your money. That kind of thing.
I will say with Western development lately in video games, it's all been trying to be that more cinematic, theatrical experience in gameplay. So the fact that a lot of this is regurgitated back into film itself just makes a lot of sense at this point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Next minor release, The Surfer came out. The Nicolas Cage psychological thriller.
Oh yeah, about him getting bullied at the fucking beach.
Yeah, very mixed reviews on this. 86 from critics, 46 from audiences.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I thought from the earlier trailers that I had seen from this that it did look like a very interesting concept, but definitely had the potential of one that could fall quite flat.
It really depends on the writing, and it sounds like the writing doesn't do it much favors.
It's weird. I remember that a lot of these critic reviews came about a while ago when this premiered at a major film festival. And the film festival crowd was very positive on it, overwhelmingly so. But I do think at the same time that likely colored the perspective on it, because the film festival crowd tends to be, I don't want to say more forgiving, but they aren't representative of the average taste, put it that way.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, especially once you get to the big ones like Cannes. All right, one more quick one. The Lilo and Stitch movie is a thing. I am shocked at how fast this feels like it went from an announcement to a thing you can go watch.
Honestly, it's probably because this movie, from everything I look at it and see,
Yep.
It strikes me as it had a really bad production.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, the CGI is okay. I heard they changed some plot points because some characters were too much money to CGI. So we have that. Yeah.
It seems fine. It's doing fine as well. Critic scores is like what, 70, 73? Let me double check that again. 70. And audience scores are 93% because of course they are. Yeah, it's, I don't know. I'm not going to be too mean about it.
There's no sport in it.
No, there's really not. It's just disappointing more than anything. Because this is, I think, maybe I might have missed something, but I feel like this is the first of these Disney live action things that is like properly of our generation. All the rest of them were either well before or like right at the very early side of when they would have been culturally relevant when we were, alive.
Actually, I was considering this the canary in the coal mine that 2000s nostalgia is officially here.
Yeah. And it definitely feels different seeing this versus like Aladdin,
Yeah.
But not in a good way, in just kind of a sad way.
What was your opinion on the original Lilo and Stitch?
I quite liked it.
Did you? Okay.
I thought it was good. It was fine. It's definitely, a kids/family movie, but it did so competently and in a way that when they did like the TV show thing afterwards, it didn't feel wholly unnecessary, right? They had good ideas for a thing that could be entertaining. And it didn't quite stick the landing all the time, but it felt like it was being made by people who cared. And this doesn't.
Yeah. I'll agree to that.
I kind of hate how much they went out of their way to make Stitch look cute.
You see, that's where I think they fucked up, because this doesn't look cute to me.
No, but that's clearly what they were trying to do. They wanted him to look less evil, when that's like the point. Is that he's an alien. Yeah, he's like an alien super weapon that these guys need to get back because that's their job. And the whole point is that juxtaposition between psychopath alien experiment and cute human family struggling to get by.
Yeah. Like, part of it is, like, we actually rewatched Lilo and Stitch last night, so a lot of this I got to see with very, very brand new adult eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I like the shock comedy in Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, there's this very down-to-earth, fucking sad CPS movie in there about Nani trying to keep Lilo. And then out of nowhere, you get, like, shit like where fucking Stitch is blowing up shit in a mountain to fly up into the sky. I'm talking about in the climax, but, like, the juxtaposition is kind of hilarious when you let it kind of work its way.
Yeah. It's well written and well thought out.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, in one of the most depressing things that I have seen in scrolling through this Rotten Tomatoes page, the fourth video that they uploaded to this as part of the promotion for it is titled Stitch X Tony Stark Crossover. And I have no idea what it actually is, and I never want to know, but that title is very sad.
When we went to the movies, I won't reveal what movie we went to the audience yet, but you know the movie.
Yeah.
When we went to the movies yesterday, we had a run-in with quite a few Disney adults going to see Lilo and Stitch. And I'm talking about, like, they were in Minnie Mouse outfits with Stitch berets. It was depressing.
Yeah.
Okay, I shouldn't be that mean. Do what you do, just don't hurt people. But, like, that fandom, it hurt me.
Yeah. That's something that I don't understand myself.
You know, I kind of have to look at it like, this is a terrible example, but this is honestly where my mind goes. I kind of think of it as like furries. Like, it is a fandom, it is a way of expression that I just do not get, and it's alien to me. Yeah.
At the same time, though, I feel like I would have the same reaction to, people, dressing up in their fursuits and going to see Zootopia too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get if you want to do that at some point, totally fine. And I guess if you're not hurting anybody, there's not a good reason to stop you from doing that. But likewise, feels like something that would probably be better for an event dedicated to that. Like,
it is like breaking the social contract, isn't it? Because, like, that's a public space.
Yeah, and you're keeping to yourself.
Yeah.
I guess as long as you are keeping to yourself, and I'm sure that they're there to see a movie just like anybody else, but yeah, it would certainly stand out to me as well.
What's our next movie?
Thunderbolts asterisks were spoiling the end of the movie with the new title.
You know, I want to see this. I'm probably not going to see it until it comes out on streaming.
That's kind of where I am at this point. I very much wanted to see this in theaters after we had the early reviews come in and we got the surprise of how overwhelmingly positive that they were, that it was this relief of getting a traditional Marvel movie, not like a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing, an actual traditional, mostly mainline Marvel movie that didn't suck.
Yeah.
For the first time in what feels like a little while. And all of my excitement was gone the second that they started plastering the New Avengers logo over it.
It's like a betrayal, because Marvel used to be really good about putting in, like, surprises for the audience.
Yeah.
And genuinely, if they would have just done the New Avengers at the end of the movie without making posters glorifying the surprise, I think that is partially why they got such good initial reviews, because it was impossible to get that spoiled for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Marvel Disney so desperately want to recapture that in moment zeitgeist of their times with the end of Infinity War and Endgame, And it's really desperate. It kind of reeks.
You know what's the real, like, contributor to that kind of, like, zeitgeist being gone?
What's that?
I blame streaming. I think streaming is the worst thing to happen to entertainment.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. I think a lot of movies are written to be dumber now because you got to fight against a person's phone for attention. There's like no attention. Like, streaming has made a lot of things so fucking disposable that they have to be lowest common denominator and watered down to like story beats and not an actual story anymore. And it's because you never know when someone's going to fucking watch this thing, and you have to assume they're never going to touch it again after they're done with you. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up here real quick. YouTube sucks. Patrick H. Willems, YouTuber, video essay type, has a video called Post-Credit Scenes Aren't Fun Anymore that he released a few months ago, and I highly recommend it. It does a really good job contextualizing, you know, how post-credit scenes got to what they are today, and from that, how they kind of suck now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think where they kind of shit the bed and jumped the shark was the idea of like post-credit scenes starting to set up for other movies. Like, I think when they're expanding the world in such a way that it kind of leaves you helpful, they were at their best. Or, you know, but when it's like shit like let's not forget the Eternals, where you got fucking Harry Styles showing up at the end of the movie, and we still have no idea if Harry Styles will ever come to the MCU.
Yeah, that was one of the really fascinating things that was brought up, was that idea where how much, like, see, a lot of it is just that the novelty has worn off, right? Yeah. Because you could like classify that, and a lot of them are, where it seems like at the end of every movie there's the reveal of some big name actor as character, and you know, you got to stay to figure out who they are and which actor's playing them so that you know what's going to be coming up next. And it's really easy to be critical of that because it's extremely played out and it kind of sucks. Yeah. And it's just boring. But they literally did that in the first Iron Man movie with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. That was the first big post-credit scene, was that reveal. And it was fucking awesome. So it really just is that it's a tool that is so massively overplayed at this point.
You know, honestly, just put the post-credit scene in the beginning for me, and then I'll watch the movie afterwards. Let's do this fucker in medias res.
Yeah. I wish that they had more of them as actual post-credit scenes rather than mid-rolls. I like, and I know it's not the reality of it, but as a concept, I like the idea of having people sit through the credits and you get the reward at the end of it.
Yeah, I think it's really it's heartwarming. I always liked it because you got a scale of how big of a production these films were from the end credit scenes. Because you have to sit through everybody in the fucking movie process, the movie making process, to get like the full image. It was humbling to an extent, and then that like post credit scene was just kind of like a kiss at the end. You know,
it is pretty fucking crazy how big movies have gotten on scale in that way. I get struck by that every once in a while watching older movies, and you'll get to the credits and it'll be like, particularly because the credits used to be at the start of the movie, right? Oh, yeah. You would play the credits during the start of the movie, and we have little nuggets of that now, just a little taste for the big names, but they used to have the whole ass credits at the start. And then the end of the movie was just the end of the movie.
It kind of blew my mind watching Lilo and Stitch yesterday. 2002, that movie came out, right?
Yeah.
was just one of those mythical ages where I don't think I even had like a full like frontal cortex yet. So I can't remember 2002 at all. There's opening credits in Lilo and Stitch, which blew my mind that was a practice back then.
Oh yeah, and it is so easy to not realize how new all of this is, because it feels like it's been a while, but it is relatively new. Is there changes that have happened, like the fact that I was thinking about this the other day, and I can't remember who brought it up, but how much of popular culture came from movies 40 years ago was different, in that movies were one of the main drivers of what is the popular song right now, because so much music, and not just scores, were made for movies, and it was good.
Dude, that's something that blew my mind when the infamous Sam and I we watched the Karate Kid trilogy, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of those trilogies where you had the story, but you also had like the main song throughout it, and the whole movie was basically a music video just for that main song.
Yes, absolutely. A really good piece. I remember what it was, because they're talking about the directors who producers, I guess it would have been, who did Flashdance, Top Gun, and Beverly Hills Cop. It's like fucking titans of the 80s. And how we think about in the same breath of like, oh yeah, they had these hugely popular songs that they got for it, and they're in those movies like Danger Zone and Top Gun. It's like, no, they wrote Danger Zone for Top Gun. That's how it's there, not the other way around. But it's just gotten so twisted since then, because I think one could argue people writing the checks for this don't want to pay for risking, taking a chance on writing something new when they can just license something that's already popular.
I think the last movie we got that really had like music written for it, I want to say it's Barbie. Even then, like, it's not.
So that's the thing, right? I think you're right, but because the perspective on it has gotten so twisted, it's gotten to the point where people would just call that a musical. Same thing with Joker.
Yeah.
They call Joker 2 a musical when there are musical elements of it, but it's really just original music in a pop format written for the movie.
So, yeah. To give an idea of just how much movies and songs are intertwined back in like the 80s and like back in the 80s and 70s,
mm-hmm.
I had to check it out, and I was right. Eye of the Tiger was written strictly for Rocky 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a trip. Like, think about Bond movie title sequences, right?
Oh yeah.
How that feels like a novelty now, when the reason that happened is just because that's what everybody did. You needed music to play over the titles, so you had somebody write a song for it.
I wonder who was the first major movie to get that had it going. It had to be a franchise or something.
I'm sure it was. It's probably some, massive movie that we wouldn't even think about now. But yeah, it's that way for I would say practically every movie that isn't like fucking Schindler's List before the turn of the century. You can look it up and find a major popular song that was written for it, because that's just what the culture of it was.
God damn it. Even like the original Rocky, Gonna Fly Now, like the da-da-da, da-da-da, written for Rocky.
Absolutely.
Which was a fucking indie movie. Jesus.
In the same vein, I had saw show up on Reddit the other day, a segment from a really interesting interview with Werner Herzog, where they were talking about how modern filming has people filming so much. I don't remember the exact documentary of his that he gave as an example, but it was like a 2-hour piece. And he claimed, at least, who can say how true it actually is, but he claimed that they filmed something like less than 10 hours of actual filming, where it was like a week, basically. And he hears about modern, particularly younger filmmakers filming hundreds or thousands of hours of stuff and being proud of that and how much it hurts him, because you hear that and you know that they're not, you don't film the same scene 15 times because you think you did it great the first time, right? There's just this lack of planning that he finds disconcerting. And I don't know exactly how accurate that is, but I thought it was a fascinating perspective.
Can I segue that into another movie we're probably going to talk about?
Yes, because we have more. Yeah. This next one is,
Karate Kid Legends.
Karate Kid Legends.
The infamous Sam and I went to go see that last night. Very fun movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good God, it is a 2.5-hour epic that's been condensed to an hour and a half. Everything in that goddamn movie is edited so fucking fast, and they have like scenes where there's two perspectives of the scene playing out at the same time. So you have like characters A's perspective and characters B perspective, and then once they meet, the perspectives merge. It is such a weird editing style. I fuck with it a lot. I think they do it somewhat well. But oh my God, you can tell this is a much longer movie because there's stuff in the fucking trailers that doesn't show up in the movie. And it makes me wonder what the director's cut of this thing looks like. Because there's no way in hell this is the original draft of how the film was supposed to go. Otherwise, it is very good. I fucking love that movie. I understand why it's so mixed because of that editing style, but I'm a fan of fast editing. It was filmed like a fucking music video.
This is true. I find that really interesting how split the reviews are on it, but in a way, from hearing what you're saying, where I would have expected them to have broken the other way, where the critics are quite low on it, but audiences are very high, sitting at a 90% with audiences.
I think it's possibly because at its heart, it's another Karate Kid movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does everybody here know the Karate Kid formula? Boy moves into city. He's not local. He's trying to find his way. Boy meets girl. Boy falls for girl. Girl's got an asshole ex-boyfriend who knows karate that beats the shit out of the boy. Boy gets ready to beat this guy up in a tournament. Well, boy meets a mentor who teaches him a thing or two about fighting. Beats the guy up in a tournament. This movie does that same format, but flips it on its head. Which I was very impressed by.
Yeah, the Karate Kid stuff is something that I never really got into, but it has been interesting seeing how very positive the reception to it has been, where it's very clear that there's a lot of people that just aren't me who are quite interested and passionate about it.
I don't know how I kind of fallen into this rabbit hole, because I didn't think of myself as the biggest Karate Kid fan. I love the original, one of my favorite movies. This should not work for what it is. It's a fucking cinematic universe at this point.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is funny, because it is, and they're doing a good job with it.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to be a critical darling by far, but it kind of just knows it's for the fans and it doesn't care about anything else. I think that's its own, like, its real strength. If I told you I think the best live action anime is the fucking spin-off show Cobra Kai from Karate Kid. Would you believe me?
Best? No. I think I could probably come up with better, but I would respect that claim.
Dude, it's so fucking good as an anime. If you just look at it with anime tinted eyes, it's got tournament arcs, it's got the fucking nemesises, it's got the fucking melodrama.
See, there is exactly one counterclaim that I have to that, though.
What's up?
The Fast and Furious series.
Okay, I've not seen those, so I will hold off judging on that.
That is the best way that I've seen, particularly the most recent ones described, where it's just like, because it starts off with street racing, right?
Yeah.
And right now they're at the point where they're like literally using rockets to go to fucking outer space. And the only place that makes sense is in an anime world.
You think they're going to do a Gundam Fast and Furious?
I wouldn't be surprised. They're halfway there already.
I would love that. What was I about to say? One of my favorite details in the Karate Kid franchise is every fighter has a very distinct, and if you pay attention, very distinct and very noticeable fighting style. And I've not seen that in any other show that really does fighting. Like, choreography is good and whatnot, but like in Karate Kid Legends, for example, the main villain, Connor, the antagonist, they basically say, like, at the end of the movie, like, they kind of describe how his fighting style works. They call him a tiger, which is a nice way of saying he's fast and aggressive. And you get like more and more of that vibe as you see him like fight in like the final bits, which I really appreciate. And it helps you start realizing, oh, like these other characters we've seen fight throughout the film, you know, they just aren't as fast as him. And it kind of makes you realize, oh shit, this guy is too legit to quit.
Yep.
So good. I'd go more into it, but I don't want to spoil a movie that has very paper thin plot already.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
We do have 2 more to go through.
Ooh, let's go.
Cinema is here. The next Wes Anderson movie has released. I don't know if it's actually properly. I think it's technically supposed to be out, but it might be a super limited release kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm not seeing it at my local Celebration Cinema. Usually the bigger one in Grand Rapids has it, though. But the Phoenician Scheme cast includes, everyone, as Wes Anderson movies are known to do. Synopsis here on Rotten Tomatoes is not particularly useful. It just says the story of a family and a family business. So I'm going to do a quick check.
I think I lost him. I think Wes Anderson is censoring us, ladies and gentlemen. Big Wes Anderson thought he could censor us, but we're back. Post-editing. Carl, what's so fancy about this movie other than its pedigree?
It's honestly just the usual Wes Anderson stuff. I was starting to say how the Rotten Tomatoes synopsis is very brief, and I was about to go try and see if I could pull it up more on Wikipedia to get something a little bit longer. But if you're going to see this, you're not going to see it because it's got a riveting concept for a story, even though it probably does have something intriguing. It's because it's a Wes Anderson movie and you're going to see a Wes Anderson movie.
You know what? I would really love to see Wes Anderson do a movie that has a 1-sentence plot. Something like really simple, like a guy goes to a gas station. How much story do you think you can squeeze out of that?
I think you could manage it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thankfully, I was able to confirm here very briefly that it will be getting a release at my local theater. They just aren't doing it until next weekend for some reason. So.
Wild. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but as for the usual Wes Anderson casting, where did it go? we have. I should probably just pull up the poster. That'll be easier than trying to read through the Rotten Tomatoes page here. That is a terrible picture. Thank you, Rotten Tomatoes. Very cool. Wow, that's just really tiny. Mia Thorpleton, Michael Cera, Riz Ahmed, Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Matthew Amalric, Richard Ayoade, Jeffrey Wright, Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Rupert Friend, Hope Davis, and oh, there it is. At the top of the thing, Benicio del Toro as one of the leads.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He only had a minor part in the French Dispatch, but he did very well at it, and he's just a really good actor. So, not surprised that Anderson brought him back for this one.
Wes Anderson, I could really see pulling off a Knives Out-esque movie. Just because he has like that history with those very eclectic celebrity cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I do get the feeling that his film, I should know it. It's not the Darjeeling Limited. Yeah, he's got one movie that's about like a elder family member dying and the family coming together for it, and the interpersonal stuff that comes out from that. That's very murder mystery in a mansion-esque, you know.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking. I don't know the name, but I
cannot remember the name of the trailer
for it.
It's like The Somethings.
The Somethings.
The Somethings is the family name. Yeah. Last but not least, though, we have the Mission Impossible movie, The Final Reckoning. Allegedly, the actual last one.
Okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
I do think at a certain point, like, Tom Cruise isn't young, and he is starting to show his age. So I think he's going to be. I don't think he would do it if he had to rely on CG. And he's getting to the age where it is not reasonable or safe for him to do otherwise.
You're telling me that man doesn't have a clone in his basement?
Yeah, but if he's doing it, how can he show off to his Scientology gods that he's a good, actor?
He's so good, the clone is innately good at acting.
But yeah, The Final Reckoning, 80% from critics, 89% from audiences. I've heard some overall very positive, but a little bit mixed reviews on it. Let me see if I can find the name of the quick. Particularly, I believe Tramal Tillman's role in it being extremely well received. He apparently has a scene that he stands out quite highly in, if that is the correct person. But I've seen multiple discussions as to a particular scene in it. And likewise to the Phoenician scene, I am looking forward to seeing this at some point.
Damn. I was at my theater, and Celebration South, the theater that we went to, it's got like a lot of goodies, extra stuff for like big movie releases. So for example, for the Karate Kid, the infamous Sam and I got headbands for the movie, like karate
That's
headbands.
Fun. Yeah.
They had fucking film posters for this Mission Impossible movie, like small little like stuff you would see at a con, kind of like the little small art posters. No one took any of those.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, I was like looking at it, I'm like, man, if this was any other movie, I'd be more excited. But oh well, such is life.
Such that it is. And that is all I have.
Okay. Well, it's good to be back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, many things coming. Lots of movies going to be coming out this summer.
Woohoo!
Back in the swing of things.
I can't wait for that one superhero movie. You know the one.
I mean, I have one that I can't wait for. that I'm
It's the
quite
one.
optimistic for, but I don't know if it's. I assume it's probably the same, but I don't know. Does it have a superb guy?
I was going to say it has a fantastic guy.
Oh, okay, so no, it's not the same movie.
No, it's Superman.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm
Gotcha.
just being a dick.
Yeah. Did you see the kind of shitty discussion that people were having about the trailer? Doing like the frame by frame analysis of it?
Was it like the stuff about the blinking and whatnot?
No, it was about the way that the flying looked.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. That's. I think it's a good sign that we're at that level of people needing to be shitty about a movie, that they have to criticize a 2-second clip of CG flying.
Well, in that case, I'm the infamous Orion, and I'm going to CG fly out of here.
And I'm Cairo. And I'm also a Schmo.
And this has been the Two Schmo Show.